what does it look like with 3 years of your government left, approximately? And what is
of this term?
Of
2 years. We don't send people out there saying go buy Russian oil. We send people out there saying go buy oil. I mean, I don't want to sound argumentative, but then tell me if buying Russian gas is not funding the war? Why, if countries in Europe and the West and the United States are so concerned, why don't they allow Iranian oil to come into the market? I don't think we're sitting on the fence. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't make me sitting on the fence. It means I'm sitting on my ground. Again, I urge you that don't use necessarily a caricature version of one situation as a yardstick to pass a sweeping judgment. I don't see a non-alignment oil connection at all. I mean, today Europe is buying oil. Europe is buying gas. I just read the new package of sanctions. Now, the package is designed in a way in which consideration has been given to the welfare of the population. So, pipelines have a certain carve-out. And timelines have been given. It's not like tomorrow morning everything is going to be cut off. So, people need to understand, if you can be considerate of yourself, surely you can be considerate of other people. So, if Europe says, look, we have to manage it in a way in which its impact on my economy is not traumatic, that freedom or that choice should exist for other people as well. Now, in terms of our oil purchases, we don't send people out there saying go buy Russian oil. We send people out there saying go buy oil. Look, I don't want to sound argumentative, but then tell me if buying Russian gas is not funding the war? I mean, why is it's only Indian money and oil coming to India which funds, but it's not gas coming to Europe which funds? Why, if countries in Europe and the West and the United States are so concerned, why don't they allow Iranian oil to come into the market? Why don't they allow Venezuelan oil to come into the market? I mean, they've squeezed every other source of oil we have, and then say, okay, guys, you must not go into the market and guess the best deal for your people. Does whoever wrote that knows what transshipment means?
Well,
I mean, transshipment is when you get it. No, when you get it and you sell it to somebody else. I have not even heard of anybody in India thinking along those lines. So, yes, we do buy
So you're saying the Wall Street Journal report is inaccurate, that they're quoting?
Politely, yes.
Okay. So
I can say it less politely,
India
but
is not a conduit to any Russian oil transactions.
No, not at all. I mean, listen, please understand the oil markets. There's an enormous shortage of oil. There's a physical shortage of oil. Getting access to oil is difficult. I mean, a country like India would be crazy to get oil from somebody and sell it to somebody else. I mean, this is nonsense. I don't think people understand because they're not actually tracking the trade. We have been exporting wheat, okay? Typically, we export about 2 to 3 million tons. Last financial year was a better year. We exported about 7 million tons. But what we then saw was a kind of run on our wheat. A large part of it done by international traders based out of Singapore and I think to some degree maybe Dubai. The result was actually the low-income countries, many of whom were our traditional buyers, like our neighbors, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal. These are our traditional buyers. Okay. Interestingly, the Gulf buys regularly from us. I heard Dr. Tedros in the earlier session talk about Yemen. Yemen buys from us. Sudan buys from us. Okay. Now, what we saw was the low-income buyers were being squeezed out. The wheat was actually being stocked for being traded. So, in a way, our goodwill was being used for speculation. Mm-hmm. So we had to do something to stop that because it was also impacting us at home. Our prices were going up. So I want to be very clear what we have done. We have actually said, look, we're not going to give speculators an open access to the Indian market so that the Indian customer and the LDCs of the world get the short end of that. Yeah. What we are still open to doing is where we see a kind of a deserving country wanting wheat, very glad to supply it within the realm of possibility. And just for the record, I think we've done this year wheat exports to about 23 countries. The rate of export this year, if I were to take the same period as last year, my rough sense is it's about 4x. What we saw happen with the vaccines, we don't want to see happen with the wheat. I mean, first of all, I think you're mischaracterizing our position, where they have, for example, when Bucha happened, we condemned Bucha, and we actually asked for an investigation into Bucha. In terms of what is happening with the Ukraine conflict, our position is very clearly that we favor an immediate cessation of hostilities. It's not that we've ignored it, unless you call phone calls to Putin and Zelensky as ignoring something. So first, I would urge you to get the factual position accurately. Secondly, in terms of the connection you are making, look, we have a difficult relationship with China. We're perfectly capable of managing it. It's if I get global understanding and support, obviously it is of help to me. But this idea that I do a transaction, that I come in one conflict because it will help me in conflict too, that's not how the world works. So a lot of our problems in China have nothing to do with Ukraine, have nothing to do with Russia. They predate it. And there are, if we are getting into who is silent on what issue at what point of time, I could point to a whole lot of issues on which, as I said, Europe has held its peace. So, it's a great polemical point you made. So I take it in that spirit. Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems. But the world's problems are not Europe's problems. That if it is you, it's yours. If it is me, it's ours. I don't think it's necessary for me to join this axis or not, and if I'm not joining this, I must be with the other one. I don't accept that. I think I'm 1/5 of the world's population. I am today the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world. Forget the history, civilization bit, everybody knows that. But I think I'm entitled to have my own side, I'm entitled to weigh my own interests, make my own choices. And my choices will not be cynical and transactional, but they will be a balance of my values and my interests.
Plausible if you want to take your position on the world stage. What does it look like with 3 years of your government left, approximately? And what is
of this term? Of 2 years, actually.
2 years.
Yes.
Thank you for the correction.
Yes.
Or even in the next decade or so. What is India's position? Sitting on the fence is not an option to be a world leader.
I don't think we're sitting on the fence. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't make me sitting on the fence. It means I'm sitting on my ground. And my ground is actually, what are the big challenges of the world? Okay, big challenges of the world are climate change. I think I'm very critical to the solution. I can be an exemplar. I can be actually an arena for an enormous leapfrogging of green technologies. Look at terrorism. Look at the emergence of a world order. I think, yes, we are largely out of the COVID, though it never quite goes away. But we're out of the COVID also with a strong sense of economic recovery. I think there's a lot of optimism about rebuilding, and not just rebuilding, but actually leapfrogging in many areas, particularly digital. I think we handled it very prudently. I almost am tempted to say smartly, in terms of the financial responses, which was we didn't blow the bank in responding. We intervened where we had to, and very effectively. At the moment, in a sense, the Modi government has just completed 8 years in office. And what we have done in those 8 years is really to, I would say, build almost I would say, a social welfare society at a speed and a scale which the world hasn't seen. And in some ways, the COVID has actually hastened that. I mean, we are, for example, as an example, we are giving food support to 800 million people. And we've been doing this for more than 2 years. So that's like the population of the US and EU put together. We have a publicly supported house ownership program, which covers about 115 million beneficiaries, which is almost like building houses for Japan. Or even if you look at terms of, this campaign, this program actually to replace firewood with gas cooking, it's impacted 80 million people. That's like changing Germany's kitchen in the space of a few years. So there's a lot going on there. And why I mention that is many of the global developments today have the potential of actually putting that under stress. Your second reference was to China. Yes, we are going through a particularly difficult patch in our relationship with China. We've had differences in the past, but we've never had a situation where, after 1962, where really agreements on not bringing forces to the border have been disregarded. A very large number of forces have been brought to the border. We've had a clash. People have died. And this has not happened now. It happened 2 years ago. So in a sense, it's a bit of a diversion, but it's also a useful reminder to Europe that there were other things happening in the rest of the world which sometimes Europe perhaps doesn't pay enough attention to. There's also been Afghanistan, and what happened there, the circumstances in which the Western, particularly American military forces left finally. And now we have Ukraine, and coming into this region, it's a region which I know well. I have lived here in Budapest and in Prague. It's a region which has been very helpful to us when we wanted to get 20,000 students out of Ukraine. Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Romania, even Moldova. But I think it's also important for people in the region to realize how this is playing out in the rest of the world.